I'm stunned.
Hello, I'm Dora Berry, school social worker for Hopewell Valley Regional School District in Central New Jersey. I'm here today at our high school with a group of students who have agreed to talk with me about their views on the district's efforts to recruit minority teachers. As I have talked with young teachers, I have often heard from them that they don't feel needed in a district such as ours, that their commitment to teaching includes a need to see that they are making a difference in the lives of the students they reach. And so we're here today to hear from the students in their own words why you are needed. First, I'd like to ask the students to introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Marcus Morrison. I'm 17 years old. I'm a senior at Hopewell Valley, and I've been at Hopewell Valley for 2 years.
My name is Bachel Cole, and I'm 16. I'm a junior, and I've been at Hopewell Valley for 11 years.
My name is Jorge Cruz. I'm 15 years old. I've been in Hopewell Valley for 3 years.
Hi, my name is Paul Miguel. I'm 15 years old. I'm a freshman, and I've been at Hopewell Valley for approximately 4 years.
Hi, my name is Derek Pop. I'm a 17-year-old senior at Hopewell Valley, and I've been here for 3 years.
Hi, my name is Heather Zalkowski. I'm 16 years old. I'm a junior at Hopewell Valley, and I've been here for 12 years.
My name is Lyle Edo, and I'm a freshman at Hopewell Valley, and this is my 3rd year here.
Thank you. Okay. First of all, I'd like you to tell me why you feel there is a need for the district to make an effort to recruit teachers who would give us a more diverse population among our professional staff. And please throw in some of your own experiences as a student here as you try to answer this question. Who'd like to start?
I'll start.
Good.
I think that it would be very beneficial for many students because I would like to relate to a teacher that is perhaps of another color besides white or another nationality or something like that, because I'd get to have someone that I could really talk to and someone that's different than the norm in Hopewell Valley.
Perhaps we need to let our viewers know what the norm in Hopewell Valley looks like. What does it look like to you as a student? Bachel, you've been here for for all of your school life. So what's our professional staff look like?
Basically, every year I've either had a white male or a white female, and except for last year when I got the chance to have Mr. Loper as a teacher. And I think maybe if we had more diverse teachers, then we could get a different perspective on what we're learning about. Because even in math and stuff like that, maybe someone from a different background has something else to offer.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I think that, there's a lot of talk about, we do have a lot of, I think in some aspects, a lot of misunderstandings about different races that aren't necessarily so prevalent in Hopewell Valley. I think we do have a lot of attitudes that could be changed, and I think that a lot of times the stereotypes that you tend to get about minorities, when we don't have a lot of minorities in this school, you don't see any minority teachers or minority figures in authority or higher up positions that say, this is somebody of a minority you can respect and look up to and admire and learn something from. I don't think a lot of students here really get that in the community. I think that if you bring in, minority teachers, they begin to see, that, not all black people live in Trenton, and, I mean, they get a different perspective on things.
Thank you, Derek. Jorge, what's it been like for you?
Well, it's been fine for most of the time. I mean, I have problems sometimes, but you know, I've managed to, you know.
Where
to
did you
resolve it.
attend? Where did you attend school before you came to Hopewell Valley?
I used to go to Council Rock, Newtown, Pennsylvania. I went for 1 year there, you know. Now, they didn't have like different, most of the people there were white, you know. I was the only Hispanic there. There was no other. I didn't feel bad, but, you know, I got along with most of the people fine.
And so do you think it's important for a district to have representatives of other cultural and ethnic groups?
Well, I guess it's good because that's something that I can relate to. It's easier for me to talk to that person because they might know my situation better than, you know, some other people.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
What benefits do you think you as a student would derive from having teachers from other groups represented among those who are your teachers or administrators? You have any ideas, Marcus?
I think we would be more proud of ourselves walking around the halls. As a minority, I'm talking about what I am. In Hopewell Valley, if we have more teachers, I mean, who are faculty who have authority than just janitors, which we have, you know. And it also showed the white students different aspects of life, you know. I think it would really help Hopewell Valley because it would show different like aspects of life more than like just the norm what we have here at Hopewell Valley.
How do you think your experiences as a student here in Hopewell Valley will prepare you for living in other parts of the world, other parts of our own country even? As you plan, most of you are juniors or seniors. Layo, you're a freshman, so you've got a few more years to deal with this. But as you think about moving into higher education and going to other parts of this country, how do you think your experience as a student in Hopewell Valley right now helps to prepare you for that?
Well, I don't think you get a complete picture of, you know, the diversity that the colleges are going to have to offer. I don't think you get a complete picture of the diversity that the rest of the country, the rest of the workplaces in the country have to offer. I mean, you know, in the workplace, you could go out, you know, your boss could be Hispanic, you know, your boss could be Filipino, your boss could be African American. Around here, I think you just tend to see all the authority figures as white. And I think that you need to realize that there's going to be a lot of different people, and they're going to be bringing in their background and their attitudes and the history of their culture and their life into whatever they're doing, whether they be your teacher or your boss or whatever. And I think that when we just get one type of teacher with one type of background coming in, I think that a lot of students don't see the whole perspective of what life is, and that it kind of gives them a false sense of what they're going into, and they're not necessarily as prepared as other schools or students who have been more taught by a more diverse group what to expect.
Thank you, Derek. So, what are some of the things that you might say to young teachers who would look at Hopewell Valley and say, convince me that I'm needed here. How can I make a contribution?
I think that, speaking as a white female, I think that it would be very interesting to have different minority teachers, because I think Mr. Loper's probably the only one that I've had different, and it's amazing how much of a different viewpoint you get. You don't think that it would be as different, but as Derek said, going out into the world and not knowing the backgrounds that other minorities have, you're not going to get very far, and you need to experience the different viewpoints and the diversity before you actually, as you're being taught about different things in school. So.
Thanks, Heather. Laya.
I think being like one of the few African Americans in this school, and mostly white school, is going to help me a lot when I grow up, because being here, it like lets me, it like prepares me, because when I grow up and get my job, I have to be ready to be like in a place where some closed-minded people might look down on me because I'm an African American, and some other people might look up to me because I'm an African American. And I think being in a majority of white, like in a majority of white people's school, that will help me a little bit when I grow up.
So what would you say to a minority teacher to convince them that they had an important contribution to make to you as a student by coming to work here?
Well, I think I'd probably tell them that there are people in this school who could really use like the help from minority teachers, and who could really use being open up to different kinds of cultures and ethnic groups. And it could and it probably would be like a good thing to most of the students in Hopewell.
Okay, thanks. But yeah, Paul.
I think a lot of students think of a certain ethnic group or race to have like a certain job mold, and I think that if we brought some teachers with different race or different ethnicity, it would really be beneficial to show us that there can be a African American teacher, or there can be a teacher with a different nationality, and it would help a lot of people that are a different nationality and race, a lot of students, to relate to that.
Thank you, Paul.
I think that, maybe as a teacher coming out of college ready to teach, they might look at a school and a community like Hopewell and, maybe have some notions or make some prejudgments about it and say, it's middle, upper class white kids mostly, it's a good school, it's got a certain reputation. And to be honest, I had certain prejudices about what this school was going to be maybe before I came into it, before my sophomore year. And I think that there's a lot of attitudes here that could still be changed, that a lot of the students have, and I think even a lot of the teachers sometimes know certain things go on, but sometimes back gets turned or problems get ignored. And I think that we need teachers who, face problems that maybe Hopewell doesn't acknowledge or doesn't have. And I speak to obviously problems that minorities face. And I think that a teacher of a minority background could bring that experience and bring that, that attitude that, we can't tolerate the kinds of things that go on in the real world, such as racism and a lot of the other problems. And I think that's something that Hopewell needs. And I think that a minority teacher could really offer a lot in that area.
Thank you, Derek. How about that, Batya? How do you think minority teachers could influence the kind of response that Derek was talking about?
Mrs. Kelly, please call the main office.
I'm going to repeat that question. How do you think that minority teachers or administrators might influence the kind of response that Derek was talking about, where sometimes you see people walking away from dealing with problems that may reflect negative attitudes?
Well, not only the problems that you're going to face here, but Hopewell Valley is kind of like a bubble, and no one's really exposed to anything. And I ask a lot of my friends and a lot of people who've grown up here who are not from a minority, have not been on an airplane or haven't traveled out of the United States, and who don't really have a lot of traveling experience. And growing up here, I never really had a problem. Like, no one ever really, I never had experienced any racism or whatever. And my mom always used to come in and teach about India to my classmates. And I tried to answer questions, like a lot of people ask me, what does the dot on the forehead mean, and stuff like that. But if you don't know, if there's not a teacher, I mean, I wish there were more different teachers so they could explain that to the students themselves, so that when they go out into the real world, which is not very well exemplified by Hopewell Valley, that they don't make a comment which is not necessarily going to be out of hatred, but just out of just plain ignorance. And they'll say it and they won't think they're saying anything wrong, but sometimes you just kind of, you're just like, how is that person saying that? And they don't even realize it's wrong. Like this summer I was at a soccer camp and I was standing right there when my coach made a joke about Indians. And it was just, I was just kind of standing there and the joke was going along and I wasn't quite getting it until he said the punchline, and I just kind of, my jaw just kind of dropped open. And obviously, like when he grew up, he never had anyone else different around, and probably grew up in a place like Hopewell Valley. And I mean, I didn't start like crying or like, I didn't like attack him or anything, but I tried to change his view. Like I told him that that's where I was from and everything, but once you're older, you can't change people's views that easily.
So what you're saying is the students who grow up in this kind of community are missing something?
They miss, I don't know, they kind of go out with a bit more ignorance than maybe someone who's exposed to different not only races or cultures, but different points of views, different beliefs that people have, you know, different identities.
How about that, Jorge? Bacho has just shared an experience that clearly was a reflection of someone else's lack of information about another group of peoples in the world. Do you ever get the feeling that you're witnessing that it isn't that people are deliberately being racist or whatever, but that they just don't understand?
Most of the time it's just ignorance. You know, they don't know a lot about something. They talk about it without knowing anything about it, you know. And they just, when that happens, I just, you know, I don't get mad or anything. I just tell them, you know, the way it goes. But, you know, if they keep doing it, then I do get mad.
So what's the role of teachers or administrators in influencing the way students think, behave, and their beliefs?
Well, I think, as Marcus said before, I feel proud, you know, to say, you know, I could relate to that person and say, you know, that I have a friend there or get more attached to that person. That's what would happen, I think. And, you know, in case that, you know, there's a problem or something, that person be there for me, I know, because, you know, would help me explain to some other people that don't have that knowledge.
Do you? Yes, Paul.
I think that the teachers, it's their role to make sure it's not a culture shock as soon as a student walks out into the rest of the world, basically, and out of the shell of Hopewell Valley, and they figure out that, like, not everyone's white and not everyone acts the same way, and there are black teachers and things like that, and so that they're open-minded when they walk out and they're not, as they say, ignorant.
Yes, Lyle.
I think another good thing to have like more minority teachers in the school is because they'll probably understand more, and they'll understand like what it's like to be like the only African American student, and like one of the only African American students in a school of mostly white kids, or how it feels like to be one of the only Hispanic students, and they'll see like how it's like to be like one of very few minority students in a school.
So you think it's important for students to be able to identify with their teachers and principals? And what has that been like for you as you've sat in classrooms and walked through the hallways of the schools in Hopewell Valley, in terms of your being able to identify with your teachers and your principals?
I think there's some really good teachers here who do a lot of good things, you know, who even though they might not be black, they might just be, you know, a white teacher who's been here for, you know, years, I think they still, they're teachers that don't necessarily have the attitudes that, you know, that might contribute to a stereotype a student might have here. I think there are teachers who really, when they see something going on in the hallway that, you know, is an incident of intolerance or something of that nature, you know, they'll stop the student, you know, and they won't hesitate for a second to do that. And, you know, they won't hesitate to, you know, ask a minority or a new student to the school, you know, how's it going, how you doing, you hanging in, any problems, you need anything. I think, and to an extent, you know, with Mr. Lang, Mr. Oliver, Mr. Corelli, Mr. O'Brien, a couple other teachers, it's good in that respect at this school. I think there are a lot of teachers who do make a good effort at that, and I think that for a minority student, you know, it might help you more, you know, when you've got a teacher, you know, asking you how you're doing, you know, stopping something like that, you know, you might say, okay, you know what, you know, he knows where I'm coming from when I say, you know, this racist kid 2 lockers down or whatever like that, or something of that nature. Or when, you know, when a teacher comes up and says, you know, why are you saying a remark like that, you know, to look at a white teacher who's telling you not to make it, you say, huh? But when you look at a minority, you know, you realize that, you know, nobody tolerates that kind of thing.
Thank you, Derek. Paul, you had an idea?
Well, I'm half white and half black, and when I have a lot of white friends, but whenever my relatives from New York who are black come over, I have a harder time relating to them than I do my white relatives. And I think it would be nice to have like some teachers that were of different colors, so I could, you know, like relate to them a little better instead of constantly having to see white faces like teaching me. I think it should be like a happy balance, a little more of a medium.
Thank you, Paul, for sharing that. Well, I think we've just about run out of time, so I would really like to thank all of you for taking the time to share your thoughts about this very important topic with us today. Thank you very much.